how's the mustachio? Here in the US, you really only have a few major contenders when it comes to car manufacturers with performance divisions. And these performance divisions are what's responsible for a lot of the company's PR through the creation of flagship vehicles. For example, how many V6 and RT model Challengers do you think Dodge would sell without the hype of SRT? Or how many people would be so blindly brand loyal to basic Chevrolet sedans without the hype of the Corvette? Probably not as many as you may think. Flagship vehicle development is huge for automotive manufacturers, all the way down to entry-level econo-boxes. But what happens when some of that performance starts trickling down into the lesser models? Well, you end up with some really neat, underrated sleepers that not a lot of people actually learn about because manufacturers don't invest the time or resources into marketing these cars for fear of stepping on the toes of their flagship vehicles. These are typically the ultimate performance bargains because you get an enthusiast developed vehicle without all the bro tax. But before we jump into that, let me tell you about our new giveaway. We teamed up with Rotoform to create some awesome new merch for you guys that includes an incredibly versatile sun hat and some absolutely banging t-shirts for you guys. And of course, for every $5 you spend, you get entered for a chance to win a set of Rotoform wheels. Get yours before they're gone because they're not gonna last long. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and head over to fitmentindustries.com for all of your wheel, tire, and suspension needs. And while you're there, make sure to add your car to the gallery and also stick around for the last car on this list. This one's gonna blow your face right off. This is my top 5 list of underrated USDM cars that you can buy right now. Let's get started. In 1998, Mercedes and Chrysler merged to create Daimler Chrysler AG. Now, this merger brought us things like the Chrysler LX platform that was based off the Mercedes E-Class. And that platform is still used today on things like the Charger and the Challenger, and yes, even the Hellcat and Demon. Likewise, your cherished Jeep Grand Cherokee and Dodge Durango shares the Mercedes ML platform. So naturally, Chrysler inherited a couple hand-me-downs from AMG as well. Enter the Chrysler Crossfire. It was based on the Mercedes SLK and debuted in 2003 for the 2004 model year, and to be frank, it kind of sucked. But in 2005, Chrysler took some notes from AMG, and by took some notes, I obviously mean copied their homework, and they delivered us the SRT6 variant with all of the SLK 32 AMG goodies, including the 330 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque supercharged V6. 0 to 60 mile an hour now only took 4.8 seconds, which was only less than half a second slower than the new C6 Corvette at the time, and being boosted from the factory, a 5-minute pulley swap and some software, and you'll be spanking Corvettes in your weird Chrysler oversized Miata thing. And the best part, because the Crossfire itself was pretty well a flop, even SRT6 is extremely affordable for the performance it delivers. You're talking about $10,000 to $15,000 for a chassis with tons of development behind it and a drivetrain that's equally as developed, over-engineered, and has lots of aftermarket support. And for that reason, the Chrysler Crossfire SRT6 is a forgotten budget superhero and underrated. The next car on this list is, well, it's a Mustang. More specifically, an SN95 Mustang. Now, before you all puke in your mouth, hear me out. It's an SVT Cobra, but it's not your typical 5-liter, 240 horsepower Cobra. I'm talking about the 1995 SVT Cobra R. Now, before we go into any further details, let's get something straight. The Cobra R was not meant to compete with the obviously more powerful Camaro Z28 at the time, which is a common misconception. The 1995 Cobra R was built to be a factory race car in the manner of the 65 Shelby GT350R, but still street legal with all emissions and safety equipment intact, much like the S550 GT350R we have today. And to further its race car attributes, the Cobra R received a track legal fuel cell and was stripped of its air conditioning, power windows, backseat, stereo, sound insulation, and a bunch of other stuff you simply don't need on the racetrack. But that wasn't necessarily what made this Mustang so special. The Cobra R got a 5.8 liter V8 that was based on the engine in the SVT Lightning pickup at the time, but this one got higher compression, a more aggressive cam, and it bumped the power to 300 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque, which made the 95 Cobra R the most powerful factory-issue small block Mustang ever. And the fiberglass hood with the huge center bulge was needed to clear the taller engine and would end up being one of the most popular additions to the SN95 Mustang for years to come. The Cobra R also got a different transmission. It used the Tremec 3550 5-speed, which replaced the regular Cobra's Borg-Warner T5, and it also added some shorter gears as well. The Cobra R would go on to deliver on SVT's promise of track handling, posting a 67.4 mile an hour average speed through Motor Trend's slalom course, which is 1.1 mile an hour faster than the 1995 Porsche 911, and generating 0.96 G in 1995. That was flying, especially for a platform that was 25 years old at the time. But even that isn't my favorite thing about this car. In order to even be allowed to buy this car, Ford would require buyers to either have a race team or have a racing license and show plans to compete in IMSA, SCCA, NHRA, or IHRA competition, forcing users to use this special Mustang the way it was intended and not let it sit. Now, naturally, a few of these cars did get through to collectors' hands that still have dealer miles on them. But joke's on them, because in typical SN95 fashion, even the most special versions still have pretty low demand and thus are not subject to collector tax. These cars are selling in the low 20s and top out around $35,000 for nearly undriven examples. And for that reason, the 1995 SVT Cobra R is underhyped, over-engineered, and underrated. Rear-wheel drive, 4 doors, large interior dimensions, understated design, and a large displacement V8 engine based on GM's LS series of engines. And no, I'm not talking about the G8. I'm of course talking about the 6th generation Chevrolet Caprice. Now, if you haven't heard of the latest 2010 to 2017 Chevrolet Caprice, you've probably been sleeping under a rock, or it's because they're only available to city and state municipalities as a police pursuit vehicle, or as GM calls it, Caprice PPV. The other reason you may be unaware of these cars is probably the styling. It's like a mix between a 2008 Impala and a Malibu mixed together and painted in bland colors. The car's design was extremely understated and honestly a bit hard to spot, as they really don't stand out at all. Granted, these cars aren't too quick out of the box. Its 6-liter V8 is easily woken up with a couple $100 in modifications, so you'll be glad you fly almost literally under the radar. So in typical PPV passion, these cars are pretty stripped down, even in its
top detective trim,
known internally as 9C3. Detective Pack cars add a center console with cup holders, where the regular cars had an open space for radios and computers. The Detective package also adds full-length side curtain airbags, not installed on the cruiser models because of the partition between the front and back seats. Safety. These cars will also skip the stain-resistant vinyl coverings that the standard Caprice would offer, and they also pass on the usual police markings and light. Because the nature of this car being stripped down as a police car and only being available to buy as a municipality, these cars are very cheap on the secondhand market and are great for just about everything outside of being a luxury car. These cars can be had in the $5,000 to $15,000 range depending on the miles, year, and that Detective package that we talked about earlier, which at the end of the day is quite a bargain. There's not a lot of other cars on the market that offer this new of a vehicle with the reputation and reliability of an LS-based friggin' police car for this kind of money. And for that reason, the Caprice PPV is fairly priced and underrated. In 1989, Ford decided to take a stab at the sport sedan market, something no other domestic brand had done at the time, and they did so with their sights locked onto BMW. So Ford took their, at the time, best-selling Taurus and turned it into their very own rendition of everything that the BMW M5 stood for, and they called it the Taurus SHO. To live up to the super high output name, the show got sporty suspension, dual exhaust, heavily bolstered sport seats, and for the time, very large 15-inch wheels. For those with German appetites on a slim budget, the show provided German-inspired performance at a nearly reasonable price. It was big enough to haul a family, but still had performance roots for those who couldn't fit their families in a Mustang GT. And maybe best of all, the original shows were manual only. The engine, though, is where this car really shines. The show had a very exotic 3-liter engine. Now, even though this 3-liter shared the same displacement as the non-show cars, it was very different. Developed by Yamaha, the show's 3-liter had lightweight and strong Ford internals, 4 valves per cylinder, dual overhead cams, and variable length intake runners, good for 220 horsepower and 200 foot-pounds of torque. In 1989, from a naturally aspirated 3-liter V6. Those were V8 numbers at the time. The show's red line was marked on the tachometer at 7,000 RPM, but fuel cutoff didn't occur till 73 7,300. Also, a pretty crazy number for the time. However, the engine was actually capable of 8,500 RPM, but it was limited to 7,300 due to the Ford accessories failing at around 8,000 RPM. You can get your hands on some sub 50K mile pristine examples of these cars for under $8,000. Now, this is truly a piece of American car history that goes completely unnoticed. I really believe that someday these cars will shoot up in value. The first generation Taurus show is underhyped, undervalued, and underrated. With 230 turbocharged horsepower, a manual transmission, and the convenience of a station wagon, the last car on this list goes out to one of the most overlooked, performance-oriented 5-door hatchback values of all time. Let me introduce you to the Personal Transport Cruiser GT. Arguably one of the most hated cars of all time, but let me tell you why you're wrong. The PT GT offers all the thrills and performance of the SRT4 Neon with all the convenience of a small transit van. Everything connected to the front subframe of the PT GT is all SRT4 engine. SRT4, the trans is a stronger get-tread unit than the SRT4 without all the third gear issues. Suspension, brakes, and cooling, it's all SRT4. The only difference is the intake manifold, which is designed for better low-end torque. Slap a couple $100 in fuel mods on this bad boy and crank up the boost, and you've got yourself a V8 Slayer on your hands, all while hauling a pair of mini bikes and 2 coolers in the back. The GT itself also got rid of all of the issues surrounding the base model's turd of a naturally aspirated engine and gave it some amenities that made the PT a much more livable place than the Neon and even the base PT. The PT GT is quite literally an SRT4 Neon wagon, and it's slept on so hard because of its questionable, outdated styling. But to me, that's what makes this car so much better, because with low demand comes low price. Just $5,000 will get you a very nice sub 100,000 mile PT GT with a manual transmission, whereas a $5,000 SRT4 will get you the world's rustiest piece of shit SRT4. And all the cheap aftermarket parts that work on the SRT4 work on the PT as well. Wheels, suspension, performance parts, all of it. Now, I get that the styling is awkward and that your masculine egos are too fragile to be seen in something that holds even the slightest feminine stigma. But the PT GT is arguably one of the best performance-oriented values in the market right now, especially if you're on a budget. And that's why the PT Cruiser GT manual is one of the most underrated American cars of all time. But that about wraps up this special, overly requested USDM episode of Over Under. Be sure to leave a comment about what USDM cars you think are underrated or what you think I got completely wrong. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We upload every single freaking day, and you're not gonna wanna miss any of it. But if that's still not enough for you, we even started a second channel called Fitment Industries Garage because we couldn't fit all the content on this one. So make sure to go check out that channel from the link in the description. And of course, head over to fitmentindustries.com for all of your wheel, tire, and suspension needs. And while you're there, don't forget to check out the giveaway where you can win a set of Rotoform wheels. I'll leave a link to those in the description as well. I'm Sean from Fitment Industries, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Please don't hate me. Peace.